My luck.
I got water. That's crazy.
I love this.
Nice salary with your MBA.
That and then
Man.
I need to move my State Farm.
that's not my
Certified.
Who'd you get your internship with?
Marshall Clinic.
There's somebody else too.
Yep. Ammon did.
most of society.
Which is so awesome. Yeah, he pulled me aside and was like,
Yeah.
good.
You can't dress up.
I will give you a list of tasks to complete.
Yeah. He's in our.
That's more of an executive assistant type. I don't pay attention.
Yeah.
I wouldn't either.
It's not terribly tough.
What is the name of the class?
I don't know. I just know the numbers are 73.
I need that too.
That's right. It's like SQL.
Yeah.
I'll be your doorman too at whatever high rise you live at.
Was he good about like writing you anything?
Yeah, we never asked.
I'm not happy because I have plans
I guess
to.
I ran 3. I think I'm coming in high school.
But like, when we get a free room,
I will probably blackmail her. I will take over her position.
It's not bad. But like CrossFit.
What kind of question is
that?
I got your water, got the liquor.
It doesn't matter. It's still not.
You guys have a question, no explanation. Okay, y'all, are you ready to get started?
Shoot, yeah.
All right. Okay, well, I hope you're
Yeah,
nice,
sure.
snuggly, and warm, especially for the folks joining us online. Today, as promised, we have a guest speaker, Mr. Gordon Wade, who is going to present to us about strategic marketing management and his experience at Nestle Purina. You were with Nestle for how long?
27.
For 27 years and is now a retired VP and general manager. Is that correct? Lots of marketing experience here, so I'm excited to have him with us today. And I will say he is not an Auburn alum, but his wife is. So we are trying to loop him in to be, well, he's now part of the Auburn family since you're here with us. But very excited to have him and love to connect and engage with new people. So with that said, I'll let you take the floor. If you need anything, holler, but feel free to speak up, ask questions and whatnot as he talks today.
Thank you. And I am definitely pro-Auburn. I really, honestly, have been for a long time. But I'm also an Indiana grad, and that feels pretty damn awesome right now. I mean, I was out at, was it 2010 when Auburn won, beat Oregon? I was at that game with my wife, so we're into it. And then for her to be with me, and our daughters were in Miami for that was pretty amazing. So, and Oregon was in the path of both of our championships. It was kind of cool. Well, thanks for the introduction. Yeah, I'm a little different than a lot of people in the sense that I worked that long in one company. How many of you, by the way, did I already speak to? I recognize some faces here. Not everybody, sorry. Was it everybody? I recognize a few over here as well. So one thing I promise is we'll have very little overlap today from what I talked about last time. Hopefully. There's a couple things at the end. So I will tell you honestly as well, the name strategic marketing management is cool. It sounds great. The reality for me was when Dora approached me and we talked about this, I said, sorry to call you.
Oh, then you can call me Dora. It's okay. Or Professor Explorer, whatever you want.
Okay. So I was like, wow, I know I was in marketing my whole career, but I don't really know what that is. Like, I don't know what I should talk about. It seemed like wide open to me, so I did a little research, and but it was unusual for me to have to try to think about what are the things I did in my career that would fit into this, and what are all the other things that didn't fit into this. So I tell you all that just to let you know, like, I actually put some thought into this and had to do some work to try to organize my thoughts. So this is not just a dump of 27 years on you. We covered this very briefly just a minute ago, but before Purina, there were a couple of years in finance for me. But throughout my Purina career, and I think I did share this with most of you before, it wasn't in this order, but I was in marketing for about 8 or 9 years. Then I went into sales. Then I went into global strategy. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about what global strategy means. That's another one of those blinking words. Then back to marketing. And then the last 10 years of my career were technically not as a marketer in our company, like not a brand marketer. I ran an agency inside of our company, which is a little unusual. We had our own advertising communications agency in the company that only served our company, but it acted like an outside company agency in the sense that we billed everybody for everything. We competed for the business because our company allows the brands to work with external agencies. So my agency inside the company had to compete for every bit of work to keep us sharp. But anyway, I tell you that because it's been 12 years since I was actually on a brand team or leading a brand in our company. And it doesn't mean that I don't remember much about it, but I might be just a little rusty. If you ask me a question that's 20 years ago for me, I'm gonna have to make something up. And I'll tell you if I make it up, okay? So before we get into any of this stuff, as I was sitting like doing this and thinking about all this stuff, there was this thing that just kept popping into my head. And this isn't the first time it's happened. But as I thought that I'd be talking with you, I thought I'm just gonna share it with you because it's always on my mind. So just imagine that you graduate from here and you start a company for however, just magically on January 1st. And that year, your company does $4 million in revenue and $600,000 in profit. It's a pretty good profit margin, I think. It's not the greatest, but it's pretty decent. So here you all of you each own this company. You've just done that. And that was last year. You own the company outright. You made 600 grand. I don't know. I'd be very happy with that. How many of you would be okay with that? Let me see your hands. Well, let me see the hands of who wouldn't be happy with that. You're one greedy person. All right, nobody good. So that'd be a nice business. But next year, so this coming year, we're just getting into it. You know for a fact it's going to be flat or slightly down. So maybe it's $3.8 million in revenue, whatever, 3.9, it doesn't matter. And $550,000 to $600,000 in profit. Is anybody in here going to be unhappy with that? Any hands? You're unhappy with that?
Yes.
Why are you unhappy?
It shouldn't be flat or down.
But what
if I can control it.
Okay, it shouldn't be, but would you still be happy taking $570,000 profit to the home? You're not thrilled about it. How about you?
I'm not thrilled about it either, because usually that means that I've screwed up somewhere, and I just don't like screwing up.
What if it was as simple as there was a winter storm that lasted for a month and you just weren't able to get all your stuff there and you're like, that's okay. But I did almost 4 million, I made almost 600,000 profit. I would personally be really happy. No, especially if I knew that it wasn't something I screwed up or I couldn't control and I said, we're essentially the same. I'd be happy because I have 600 grand that I just made and my business is still healthy as far as I know. Even if you told me, now I'm revealing a lot. If you told me the next year, in fact, if you told me for 10 years, I could have 4 million in revenue and 600,000 in profit, I would personally take it. Maybe I'm just not that risk averse. But put your own number here. Okay, this isn't really the point. Imagine if it was 800,000. My point is that you can find a way, and you can see that I did it, that I'm perfectly fine with that business. But that literally is not at all the business that I lived in, the business world that I lived in. And I always struggled with that because we were owned by Nestle. And every year, it was just expected. We had to grow 4 to 6%. Now, there's all the dynamics about us being one of the better businesses in Nestle, so we might have had more growth than some of the other slower growth businesses. But either way, I thought they didn't even think about this. There was never a consideration that, hey, you guys have some headwinds or some stuff happening. Why don't we give you a pass this year and you can go flat? And you can imagine why that is, right? What was the one reason why that doesn't fly? Does anybody know? Because it's a public, like investors absolutely will take their money and go somewhere else if they can't get a return on that company. In other words, if you say to your investor, hey, sorry, we're gonna be flat this year, they would literally pull their money, most likely, and go invest in something where they can get growth. That's pretty much the way it works, because they're publicly traded. By the way, biggest competitor we had in the world was Mars. You guys, you know Mars that makes Snickers and M&Ms and Pedigree dog food and Royal Canin and a whole bunch of other stuff. Mars is privately owned, so we never really know anything about them as our number one competitor. I mean, we have pretty good intel, but we don't know anything for sure. They don't have to disclose this stuff. And it's crazy. They would take a loss maybe in the Asian region and then overinvest in Europe for 5 years and then completely change that strategy. And we're running around trying to manage them in a publicly traded company. And it is really, really difficult. So they were almost operating by that other model I was talking about before. Okay. But my point here to tell you is that this doesn't fly. Like, growth has to be, that's just the way it is. And as somebody, so as you think about it as a marketer or a brand manager in a company like this, that's just, you come in knowing that. So I've never had a discussion where I said to my boss, listen, it's been really tough for us. Like, even this year, we're gonna come in, we're gonna miss our number. So next year, I think we're gonna have to recalibrate what our number is. Like, that discussion doesn't go over very well. They almost go, no, this year just didn't happen. You think you build it into your base, but it's really unlikely that they give you a pass and do that. So let's just talk about the structure. And by the way, so like I said, my career was with one company. I know for a fact it's similar to companies like Unilever and Procter & Gamble and Kraft, but they are all different. So I can't, I'll tell you what I think. I don't really know how those guys do things. So maybe you have other speakers who can shed light on that. Dora, I'm sure, knows more about some of those companies than I do. So just take all that with a grain of salt, but I think these lessons generally apply. In our situation, we had this GSBU. So I don't want to bore you too much with Nestle's structure, but Nestle owns a lot of different kinds of businesses, from coffee to candy and pet food and water, and they're all basically managed as separate companies inside the company. And each one of them has this GSBU back in Switzerland. It's a global strategic business unit. And that group essentially is saying, look, what do we think the global brand strategy ought to be for, and if, in my case, in pet food, they'll be looking at the major brands that we have. And in trying to have some commonality across the world, because what happens is, I'll get to that in just a minute. They'll also be the ones that say, look, where do we want to invest? We have the money in Switzerland. Who are we going to give it to in our regions? We have the Zone America, Zone Europe, Zone Asia. Who gets the money that we want to give for capital? Because everybody wants money. All these zones and regions want money. These guys are responsible for that. They also technically own R&D for the whole world for everything Nestle. So literally, if I'm in the US and I want to develop anything, I'm using the global resource. Like, I kind of need permission. I have to make a good business case for why I want R&D to pursue something. And again, there's limited resources. So the best regions with the best businesses are going to get the resources. They also own the brands. So while I may manage Fancy Feast in the United States, they own it. They own the brand trademarks. It's a really unique arrangement. We license the brands from them. It's a way to send money back to Switzerland, but that's another deal. So after that, that's them at the top there, the blue thing. Now you're down to the regions or the zones, and I'm not going to, I could talk all day about the difference in zone. We're just not going to talk about it, okay? But what happens is these regions then go, okay, Nestle said this is what we're going to do as a company, or they're saying that to their investment community. Then that stuff goes down to the regions. They're basically saying, hey, you guys are on the hook. So this guy owns the region, and he owns all the businesses in it: pet food, the water, the confections, the Tombstone, all that stuff. Then that region has to say, okay, how am I going to allocate this? Nestle put me on the hook for X. I'm going to now allocate it in my region to, so in our case over there, North America, Canada and the US, and then with all the businesses within that. This is confusing, isn't it? I think it gets better, by the way, in a few minutes. I just wanted to set this all up for you guys so you understand how targets and decisions or the things that drive everything we do after that are mostly out of our hands. We're handed that number. There's a little negotiation that goes on with us in Switzerland. Like our CEO and our CFO are over there going, I know you guys want this out of us. We don't think we can do it, and here's why. And they're always playing this game. But in the end, they're going to give us a target. And then it comes down to the market, Purina US. Now we're very specific. We said we gave it the market and the business. It wasn't water US. It wasn't pizza US. It was Purina. So there we go. Finally, so here I am running Fancy Feast in the US, waiting for a number. Not really. I know what they're going to tell me. Fancy Feast is one of the best businesses. They're going to probably put 8% growth on me every year, no matter what is going on. But there is some consideration given, just not that much. So in the end, here you are. As a market with these targets, and you get everybody, and their targets are there, you've got to get everybody on board. So you can see all the people I've listed. I've probably forgotten some. So everybody understands now marketing, sales, manufacturing, procurement, because, okay, what are we up against? And where is it all going to happen? So they said, looks like, the wet cat food business is going to do this, the dry cat food. And as a product supply person, you start going, oh my God, we don't have that kind of capacity, or we've got sourcing issues with so many different ingredients. I can't believe you guys think we're going to do that, right? You have to start really coming together as a team to figure out, like, what is the reality? And by the way, you might say, I know we're going to find a different mix and a different strategy to get to the overall number they give. So they wanted 6% out of the U.S. business. We're going to do some things a little different, but we're going to give them that number. But there you go. Now you've got your marching orders as a marketer, as a brand team. So we're finally going to get into some marketing stuff. So there you are. This is every brand then goes, okay, I'm off and running. Everyone's got their target. And what you do as a brand person, what we did is we had a few foundational things up there, like the brand positioning. We're not messing with that. That is always going to be a constant, like foundational to what are we going to do this year? Like we don't change our minds and go, I know we've been this kind of brand position this way, but man, with this kind of growth, we're going to change it up. We just don't do that. The segmentation, I'm going to talk more about segmentation. Like we have a very clearly defined consumer target that we target with each of our brands. I will talk about it. This is really important for us. And so the way we do things, the way we speak to consumers, the things we offer, we don't ditch that. Same idea. You go like, you know what, let's just launch, like this is a hot product, like frozen food or refrigerated. That seems to be hot. Let's do that. Well, a brand might go, hey, that's not in our DNA. We don't do that for whatever reason. That's just not the way we do things on this brand, and we're not going to deviate. So you have all that in the back of your mind. But here you go. You got your sales and profit targets. So those are driving everything. I mean, we're going crazy. I have market share in parentheses because, honestly, Nestle has made this one the least important. In the end, and our CEO used to say this, you don't take market share to the bank. And we know it matters because you could go, hey, we had a good year, we're up 8%, and you go, but you lost market share. So you're not really winning. You kind of won a little, but you're not winning. So we do care about it, but we don't get too strictly measured on it in our company and our bonus structure. Honestly, in 5 years, usually everything changes and then the market share becomes number one. But companies like this do change their mind. But in general, profit and sales are the big ones. RIG, has anybody ever heard of RIG? Real internal growth. RIG is a measure that we also have to try to manage too, which says, if you didn't take any pricing action, how would your year have looked? So it's basically saying, did you guys really sell more volume or did you just raise prices? Because you can get to a sales target by raising your prices. It's not easy. It's not fun. Retailers kill you. Consumers hate you, but you can do it. But then they'll ding us over here and go, your RIG is terrible. Like your volume was down, even though your sales were up. So we get dinged on this stuff. So those are the things driving us. We're looking at things like syndicated data to go, every brand is always aware of this, going, how are we doing? Are we losing households, gaining households? How's our buying rate look among our households? How's our loyalty to our brand? Like, those things top of mind as a marketer. And they're really going to inform all the decisions we make for developing a plan for the next year. And by the way, these plans, the reality is, we're working on these plans 18 months in advance. So while the targets are given to us, right before the end of the year, all right, here's another truth. No, this year's targets, I can assure you, for Purina will come out, they'll get them in March or April for this year, which is crazy. And they're on a calendar year. It just takes forever. So, but we're already developing our plans 18 months in advance. So yeah, it's a bit of a game, but it's real. I mean, we know essentially what we're going to be asked to do. The other thing as a brand person, you absolutely cannot come up with a plan without sales in the room. We used to do this before Nestle bought us. Marketing would have it all figured out. And then sales would go, we can't do this. Like we would literally have a brand like Dog Chow slated for 10% growth. Sales had it slated at 5% down next year. That's a huge problem. We were not synced up. We did our own thing and marketing led the company. It doesn't work that way anymore. If we cannot agree with them on the numbers, like we're in big trouble. And I'll tell you why later when we talk about how we monitor how we're doing and how we really react to how we're doing. A couple of the other things, a lot of internal data and analytics, of course, on our business, telling us the finer point, like what, literally down to SKU level, what's working, what's not working, what's being delisted, what, you name it. We've got data on everything. All those things are going into your brand plans. And in the end, there's down that bottom right, it's your brand team with your agency partners developing all those plans. So what are communications, promotion, innovation, renovation? So imagine if you want to launch a new item. You better not be thinking about it now. You got to be thinking about that 5 years in advance. And we do. But you'd have things that you were slated for a year, and sometimes things change. COVID happened, and we stopped all new items because there was so much demand for existing items. We just didn't have capacity. So there you are. Now your team this is what you're doing. You're feverishly working on your plan, getting approval for it from your vice president, your director, and there's some back and forth there for sure. Now you're off and running with the plan. Now this is what a typical brand team looked like at Nestle. You could come in with an MBA and be called a marketing assistant. Doesn't sound very glamorous, but it's a great job, great learning job, but you're technically the low person on the totem pole here. Learning a lot, doing a lot of the things you'd imagine, just lots of forecasting, analysis, budgeting, timelines, briefs. Same kind of thing with an assistant brand manager, except you've proven you can do all that stuff and you get promoted for it, take on a little bit more responsibility until you become a brand manager, which you start to really make the decisions like day in and day out, what's going on and how the money's getting spent. You're managing people. And then there's a brand director. So like you'd have the brand director of Fancy Feast, the brand director of Cat Chow. You basically own that brand. And then the vice president really in our company, would oversee, let's say, the cat brands. So like that person has responsibility for Cat Chow and Fancy Feast and Friskies and all that stuff. Any questions, by the way, before I keep going here? I know I've thrown a lot at you already, really probably more than anybody cared to know about Nestle and how we do our thing. And I didn't mean to make this about Nestle, okay, but we kind of had to early on. No questions yet? Because you guys just ask me questions as we go. I talked about segmentation, and I felt like this was important to share with you today because it's very strategic, and it honestly forms the basis for so much in our company, in other companies, and we all do it, by the way. This is not a Nestle thing. I've not heard of a big CPG company that doesn't do this. And what it is essentially a humongous amount of research to try to tease apart differences in all the buyers of the category. So take all the people who buy cat food and dog food and try like heck to find discernible, actionable differences that you can split them out. And the reality is it's really, really hard because most of us exhibit things that would put us into all the different segments at one time or another. So we're never cleanly like, well, you're clearly over there, that's it. You don't ever do any of those. Like, it's not the case at all. But you have a propensity to do certain things, and then we try to find the things that matter most. So it doesn't do us any good to divide people by hair color or something stupid. Like, it has to be something we can act upon. In our case, it's an attitude towards pets and feeding. And then there's a lot of little things under that. And in the end, we have these segments, and all of our brands are targeted to a segment. And this is your laser target. So we may get a brand like ProPlan here. It will absolutely source its volume from all these segments. But this is where it sources most. And this is who we target, and this is what we do everything for. But we're gonna get business from all these people for whatever reason. And that's great. And every brand is the same way, they all do it. But if you had a brand that's not really doing number one with its intended target, like, we probably have an issue. But that is not the case. So, and we can have more than one brand in a category live in the same segment. We don't love it, but it happens. You'll see Friskies, Kit and Caboodle are over there. Again, these dog chow, cat chow, fine, they're different species, so dogs and cats. But we prefer not to have 2 dog food brands in the same one, or 2 cat food brands. We do have it here with the Merrick and Beyond, and the Beyond's a very, very small brand for us. That's why. So this is literally gospel around our company. Like, you have to know your consumer segment inside and out. And as a marketer, we spend a ton of time with people, consumers in our segment, doing research with them on any given time. So whenever we do a new product or any kind of investigative research, it's with people from our segment. Like, we have a way to identify them through questionnaire. And any research, so we'll go into their homes. And we'll find people who are on our consumer segment. We do a lot of ethnographic research, which, by the way, if you've never done it, is really cool. I wasn't huge for focus groups and all this. Like, they're fun and interesting for a while. Ethnographic is where you go in and watch people. And I think you learn, it's almost like something true in life. People tell you one thing, but most consumers either do a different thing, or they don't ever even tell you something that they do. So, for instance, I remember this one because it stuck out to me. I was leading the Fancy Feast brand. And we were in this woman's home, and there's 3 or 4 of us, and we say, they just act natural. You got a camera and stuff. But people do, really quickly, they act natural. We said, just feed your cat, we just want to watch it. And we watched her go through this thing, and so she's talking the whole time. She's got this can, and she brings it over to the counter, and she's got this towel she puts over it, and then she's got her can opener on it, and now the towel, so you can't even see the can, her opening the can. And we're watching that going, that's weird. But okay, I get it, I know what she's doing. But okay, and then as she gets done, she has a pair of pliers that she pulls the cap off the rest of the way, and there's no splash. And then when she puts the can, she feeds half it and then puts aluminum foil on the can, puts it back in the fridge. And we're watching all this stuff going, so is there anything we could do better for you? Is there any pain points in feeding this food? And we're not just asking about the act of that, like even the interaction with the cat, how it comes out of the can, how it looks in the bowl. She's like, no, it's good. We're like, but you put a towel over it. She's like, well, yeah, I mean, that's for the splatter. If everybody does that. And you're like, okay. And you use pliers. You're like, well, yeah, I mean, you're not going to touch this thing with your hand. And you're like, okay. And like aluminum foil. She's like, yeah, well, this stuff stinks. I don't want to just put it in my fridge. We're like, so we could really do a lot for you. But you've gotten so used to it, you don't expect any of it from us. And as a marketer, you watch this and go, man, I see a lot of opportunity here. It's like the tennis ball thing. Remember we talked about that? Just watching people, you'll find out a lot. And like I think that was the number one thing I preached the last time was use your own stuff and you'll find out all you need to know as a marketer. Yeah?
You think that the reason she didn't see it as being a problem is because people don't like changing their routines. So she's like, I just would never think of any reason to change up this routine.
For sure. I think that could be part of it. I think also she's just gotten used to it. And she knows companies stink. You guys don't do this stuff. Like we're all used to companies failing us all the time, I think. I mean, there's like I can't think of it right now, but you guys probably can. Think of the pain point, the things that you just go, that's just the way it is. Like you're going to spend how long on hold if you have to call Spectrum? Like you just know. And if you don't, you're absolutely delighted. And companies should know that stuff. Some of them either know and they don't care. Some of them don't know, they don't bother to know. Or some are like, we're trying. I don't know. Or they think it's not worth it. But I think you ought to at least be aware. You ought to at least try to understand if those are game changers, if you fix them. And again, if you ask people, what can we do better? They're most likely not going to tell you. Usually. Like, of course, they'll tell you they want more pepperoni on their pizza. But that's like, you know what I mean? Like, the real problem areas, those are just nice things. But real problems are usually hidden. Or real opportunities. There are things that you go, this is just over and above. Nobody expects it. But what if we pulled it off? And you don't know what it is unless you're really paying attention. Which, I'm going to get to another thing about that, about insight in a few slides. But I just wanted to tell you real briefly on this. This segmentation, how it really translates to a brand. So people, most likely, if you're not really into this stuff, you think Friskies, Fancy Feast, whatever. Honestly, we have a lot of the same kind of products. We call them a little different things, different packaging, but they're really similar, I gotta be honest with you. But the difference here is, so like, we know the Fancy Feast buyer is all about this, literally, love is in, like, the details matter to them. When it comes to feeding their cat and that relationship, this is so important, the food they feed. This is their expression of love to their cat. I know that sounds heavy, but it is. And if you talk to cat people, it doesn't sound really that weird. They're like that. They go, oh yeah, this is what it's all about. And so it's really important, and all the little things matter to them. Friskies, again, they care about that in general. Those people care. I mean, they're still caring cat owners. But what they're really into is like, hey, my cat just loves stuff. He loves lots of new stuff, and I just want to find new stuff to keep him excited and happy. And it's just it's a slightly different thing, but it means a lot. So Friskies really is all about exploration. If you've ever seen any Friskies communications, they're all about like basically a theme park for cats. Everything, like gravy's flowing here and there, and there's a volcanic meat thing, or what, you know. I mean, it's just it's cat walking through this world, kind of going like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, just like wow. And literally, that's what we play back to them. Fancy Feast, if you ever see these things, it's like you know, in the moment, and it's scooped out and put in that little crystal goblet, and it just comes across completely differently. Some people over here would think this is ridiculous. You people are nuts. People over here think you people are nuts. I mean, that's how it is. They go like that. I can't believe you don't dote on your cat like that. One thing you'll notice right away is there's no human in our Friskies commercials or any of our communications about Friskies. It's not about them. It's all about the cat. Always a human in Fancy Feast. Which is because, again, back to the brand properties and the DNA, the brand positioning of this thing, like that is absolute, like there's things we will never change. Like cat, the relationship scene, like if you ever see, and believe me, you will see it. There's still gonna be an agency that somebody new on the team doesn't know all this stuff. And will come in and show you, hey, we're thinking this is great. And there's a concept in front of you, and you as a brand person, you immediately go like, you're kidding, right? And there's no person on it. And they go, hey, well, yeah, we'll put a person in there. You're like, no, it's not like that. You can't do that. You can't just put a person in there. Like, this thing is really, really important. So to me, actually, in strategic marketing, this is probably the most important stuff in the world, is knowing exactly what your brand is all about and how to deliver on it consistently. Because sometimes you'll be tempted to just veer a little. And there's some low-hanging fruit if you veer. There really is. But you have to stay true. So I mentioned insight just a few minutes ago. Yes?
Can you talk about, when you veer left or right too far? Like talk about like Bud Light, for instance.
Oh, yeah.
Going too far one way, you erode trust with your consumer base. Can you provide an example of maybe like a time that's happened and what y'all did to get that?
This came up actually in our last class. I don't know if it was Bud Light, but somebody, maybe the question was like, what do I think about that? But Well, I'll tell you what, we stay so far away from stuff like that, like topical cultural stuff, because it is so volatile and it's so risky. Now, some people do it great and they can ride on top of that. That's just not how we roll as a company. We're always gonna be like, why don't we sit back and check this out for a while? Like, right or wrong, that's how we do it. Our brands tend to not get involved in causes or issues. What causes we do. So like, for instance, we have a brand, ProPlan, that, and our company, honestly, is all about this idea that only 5% of shelters, so for domestic violence, allow pets. And we know that, I don't know, 70% of households have a pet, or 80. And we know, like, if most people who are in a domestic violence situation, their number one reason for not leaving and going to a shelter is they can't bring their pets. I mean, it's crazy. So we think, well, we gotta change that. So we're trying to change that by partnering with shelters to make them pet friendly. And that we care a lot about it. We don't see how that can blow up on us. It's not like something that came along and we're like, let's ride that, and then we go, oh, that was stupid. So we're more about like, we look at that brand DNA again and go like, what fits with us? Instead of going like, what's hot right now? Insights to me, now it's another blinking word, and I gotta be honest with you, when I was putting this together, I struggle sometimes because sometimes somebody will say something and they go, I have an insight, and they say it and you go, I don't know if that's an insight. And then you get into this debate over what's an insight. Like, is that a pure insight, or is it mostly an insight, or is it just something? Is it just a data point? And I don't know. I don't want to referee that. But so I say, let's give ourselves a little grace here when we talk about this. And I'm going to show you some examples. I'm not even sure. They're all different levels of pure insight, okay? But I just want you to take the point. And the biggest thing I can think of when I think about insight is it's easy to see stuff. Like, you, as a marketer or a person, you're gonna observe a lot of stuff. And you go, hey, I saw this happening. And you go, isn't that a great insight? And I would say, no, that was an observation. What's the insight? So let me give you an example. Maybe we can do it right here. Okay, so I asked one of my buddies who's a Purina to send me a few of these slides. Like, there's like 5 or 6 slides here I'm gonna show you. These are his. And I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna share these because I don't know. Because to me, there's something missing here. I would say the observation is cat people hate the fact that cat litter is so heavy. That's the observation. And it is true. In all the research we do, they absolutely hate it. The insight to me is that they still do it. But why? Because they know. They know there's a trade-off. If it were gonna get lighter litter, probably would suck. It's not gonna work. I don't know, does that seem like an insight to you? I'm not sure what I call that thing. But that's what's going on here. And it was true forever until we invented lightweight litter. And people are skeptical as heck, and they go, it can't work. I know it doesn't work. And so, of course, first thing we had to do was like go, you won't believe how light this is. And we would go to retail and basically put demonstrations and let people go like, oh my God, it's amazing. And you immediately start going, I would love this, but it can't work, right? Now we have to prove it works. So what's the best way to prove it? Well, just trial. Like, let them have it, let them take it. Sorry, this is a totally separate one coming next. So the marketing thing there becomes, how do we overcome this belief or hurdle that I'm not gonna waste my money trying this stuff? Then make trial really easy, or really demonstrate it in store. If you can, it's very hard to pull this off in a grocery store. So make trial real easy. And then make sure your product works. It better deliver. And we knew it did. Again, let me think about this one. The observation, here's the observation. Forever, I'll give it to you in just a second. People don't feed senior foods to their dogs. They just don't. I mean, when I first came into the company, they told me, here, why don't you take Dog Chow Senior and figure it out? I was like, okay. I do some research. First thing I found out is people are like, And the insight to me is, because one, they do not want to come to grips with the fact that their dog's getting old and maybe dying soon. And also, they don't think any food's going to make a difference. So that's the challenge, that's the struggle we're up against is, okay, take those things on. I'll give you the rest in a second, but you had a question.
So for the cat litter insight, when you're deciding, because you're offering trials for consumers to test the product, how, as sort of like a brand manager, how do you decide how many trials to offer?
That's a great question. I mean, the truth is, a lot of times it's of course, let's say you might have your research says we have 1 million households that buy our stuff. So you have to start doing some math and go, how many of these people are realistically going to buy this stuff? And you do some research on that, do a concept study. And you might say our realistic target is we could get 20% of these households. So you're at least starting to go, okay, what would that cost? Because they're all going to have to try it. Like, I don't know if this can be a word of mouth thing, or maybe it is. I mean, so you have to start working backwards. And literally that is the stuff that on a brand team, you have to do it, and it's nitty gritty going, okay, but what would that cost? My God, 20%, so we're talking 200,000 households, like, what's this gonna cost us? $20 maybe when it's all said and done? $15, I don't know. And then you come up with a price tag and go, oh wow, this is a $3 million thing, or what's the payout? How many things of this do we think they're gonna buy? How long is it gonna take us to get our money back? Like, you do all that stuff. And the best you can. And then your team also has to go, okay, that's great. Let's assume it's true. We've really pressure tested it. We got a whole bunch of other initiatives that other people on the team have said, this is another great initiative. You literally have to choose. But if this is your new item, like, you have to get behind it. But if it's just a marketing program, let's say where this existed, and you said, hey, I got a great idea. We can expand penetration of this product. And here it is, it's $3 million, and the brand manager, the director is going, okay, let's table that for a second. What else are we trying to do as a brand? We might say, whatever it is, I don't know. We're trying to take share from so-and-so. Okay, what's that gonna cost? Like, you literally are just making choices because it's not unlimited funds. And I've never seen something that said, like, this is clearly the way to go. Like, it's never that. You have to make strategic decision. And this is one of the things in the end, you asked me like some of the things I've learned, is, at some point you have to have gut business instinct tied to business, rigor. You go, well, yeah, everybody wants to have that, but you have to develop it over time, the credibility that people start going, your gut's pretty trustworthy. Like, you've delivered a lot with it. And you probably don't have a lot of it early on in your career. Like, I didn't have a lot of it. Like, nobody, they're like, you don't really know. How could you have a gut decision on this? You haven't been through any of this before. So I just tell you, it's a little bit murky. Like, I think the plan, that's there's a system to that. I mean, there's a template or a way to approach that, to come up with pretty realistic numbers and how it's gonna work, what it's gonna cost. And then you monitor the heck out of it, right? You said, we think we're gonna get this much repeat. Or if we send this offer out, we think we're gonna get 20% of people, or they're even gonna act on it. Well, you better monitor it really closely to find out, like, oh wow, it's only 5%. Like, this is not working like we thought. And you do that every day as a marketing team. You're always looking at those things and saying, how are they performing? Yeah.
So back to the litter, what was the decision making behind creating a whole new light product rather than just replacing the original with the light product, and just it being lighter now, assuming the same performance?
There's a couple things at play there. One is marketers never want to give up shelf space. Like, they always want more. It's because the truth is, shelf space leads to share and sales. It just does. Now, it changes a little more every year as the shelf is becoming virtual. Like, it's a limitless shelf. But the reality is, there's still a whole lot of it's done through physical retail. And you never give it up. You always want new items, and you always want to pick off one of your competitors' items. You can only do that if you're really good, because retailers are going to call you and go, hey, listen, you've got a few items here that just don't move. Well, my point of view on that is, you ought to do something with those before a retailer tells you to. Like, and we should, as a brand team, we should be going, hey, we got a couple of real skunks out there. Like, let's do something. You're always on top of that stuff. And your sales teams are telling you, hey, guys, we're going to get picked off if we don't do something. But back to that. So there's that. The other thing is, this is going to be more expensive. And so people are going to want a choice. Go like, I don't want to buy that stuff. It might be 40% more because it is expensive. It's took completely new technology for us to make this. And it was a long time coming, and it's expensive. But some people are like, and it's just a percentage of people who are like, I'll pay it. Like, it's, honestly, I don't want to stereotype anybody, but if you're 70-year-old woman this tall, like, it's heavy. Litter's, anybody have a cat and pick up litter? Dog food's heavy too. I mean, they sell it in 50-pound bags. It's heavy. So, I don't know if that's a perfect answer for it. Did somebody have a question?
Well, my question was similar to that because I was going to ask about cannibalization in terms of, I'm sure that was something y'all thought of as you were developing the product, is that you don't just want to shift consumers from buying this brand to this brand. Instead, you want to grow your business and get more consumers. And so you had touched on it by saying it's a higher price point. And so you're probably, tapping a new market rather than just shifting consumers over.
Yeah, we're generally not in the, there's always a premiumization thing going on in the category. You're always trying to bump people up who are willing to be bumped up. But yeah, we try not to do a lot of shifting just because, unless you have a fantastic case, like the profit margin is just better. But generally we're looking at outside of our own portfolio when we do this stuff. Like, who's this? What do we see happening in the category? And again, this could be several years in the making. And you're like, there's this thing over there. These little things that are taking off. And it's people doing really boutique things. They're not worth our time yet, but we see something's happening over there. And what is it? What are these trends that we're seeing? What are the consumer attitudes that we're seeing? And we're going to monitor those until we think we need to start doing something about that. And we then we may have seen things. I never worked on litter. We may see things that say, there's some products out there, they're not great, but people are intrigued by them and buying them because they're lighter. And they're different, and they think they're more efficacious, whatever it might be. And we go, well, let's dig deeper in that. And we will deep dive that stuff and go, what is it exactly? Is it because they don't track in the house? Do they not smell? Like, what is it? Is it telling, like, we have litter, smart litter, that'll tell you if there's some problem with your cat's urinary tract by the way the stuff turns different color. So there's lots of little things that could point us towards something like this that eventually becomes an actual product launch. Yeah.
How often are you guys buying the competitors' products to test it against your own?
All the time,
Okay.
every week. Yeah. Every brand has a technical applications team that every week we are taking our products, whether it's litter, wet cat food, dry cat food, dog treats, we're always testing them against our competitors. And we're looking at brand team members are down there looking at all this product visually. And you should get to the point where you can walk in as a brand team member and go, that looks like that came out of Allentown. Like, what factory it comes out of. But you also go like, that doesn't look right. And our team will say, the technical team will say like, why do you say that? And you go, I don't know, it just looks a little soft. Like that, its face looks a little mushy. And they'll be like, yeah, we thought the same thing. Like, they aren't going to tell us until after we do our assessment. But then we're always doing taste tests, like feeding studies to see whose stuff's preferred. Because we didn't ever want to give an inch on that stuff. Like, to us, for us, it's table stakes. We have the best tasting stuff. But we don't take it for granted. So it's not enough for us to win, because here's the reality. Let's say our dog food wins versus somebody else's. The reality is with dogs, they will eat whatever you put there. So you never, as a consumer, almost never see the difference, and you never do head to head. So whatever you put down, you go like, man, he really ate it. You're like, well, yeah, they do that. That's cats are different. If your cat food is not really, really good, they literally will walk away from it. So you can trust the data on a cat palatability study. Okay, let's see. I don't know. So anyway, the way we conquered this one was through a true breakthrough to help mental clarity and alertness. And literally this stuff, so people saw that feeding this food could change your dog. Literally, your dog could go from we have so many testimonials of this, and videos of a person's dog that say couldn't go up the stairs. And an owner goes, well, it's his hip, he's old, he's got dementia, his hips. And we're like, feed this food for a few weeks. And all of a sudden the dog's going up and down the steps. And you go, wait a minute. And like, it wasn't a hip problem. His brain didn't know, literally looked at the steps and went, I don't know what that is. And as a dog owner, you just go, everything that happens, you go, he's getting old. And literally there's another one that people do. Take a tennis ball and there's an orange cone and their dog's looking at you, go, hey, and then put it on the cone. And then you go, and the dog is like, where in the hell's the ball? They have no idea. They literally just can't compute it. Or when dogs don't eat and they're old, people go, well, he's just old and, whatever. He's not doing well. He's lost his appetite. And you go, no, literally your dog forgot. It doesn't know it's supposed to eat. And we would see people feed this food and go, and then the dog's appetite comes back because the brain went, oh yeah, food, we should eat that. So we could unlock people they're like, oh, so you can change the behavior or the health of a dog through food. Yeah, you can. Okay. I'm just going to tell you this one. We don't have to go through too much, but it's just an amazing product. So here's an interesting thing. A lot of people don't get cats who want cats or get rid of cats because they have a boyfriend, spouse, kids, whatever it is. Someone in their house literally will go nuts if they have cats. Like I'm like that. I'm just really allergic to cats. And it's just a thing. It's just a reality. And there's no way around it until we found a way around it. Here's the weird thing that people don't realize. You think you're allergic to, I hope nobody knows this or won't seem that cool. The dander of cats, you've heard of that. You figure it's in their hair and they shed it and you get it on you and then you go nuts, right? Well, the reality is it's not the hair, it's the licking. So there's an enzyme in their saliva that when they lick their hair, they leave it on their hair. And that's what's in the hair that bothers you. It's not the hair. It's not on the skin. It's the saliva. And we invented a product that basically neutralizes that inside the body through saliva. It's basically like some sort of egg yolk thing. So there's nothing crazy, there's nothing artificial. But it basically neutralizes that enzyme. So literally, all of a sudden, your cat licking doesn't bother somebody who's allergic to cats. And it's a game changer. So you go like, wait, I can have a cat now? And we've seen people break up over this stuff. Like it's crazy when you do the research on this, find out that the lengths people will go to, the rooms they'll keep their cat in the vacuuming they do, all this stuff. And to offer them a solution like this is crazy. Okay. So here's a big thing though for us is staying on track. I mean, literally, so I've seen this over my career change so much. When I left, I was actually a part of the team that did this. Weekly operations review and monthly operations review, the WAR and the MORE meetings. And you think like, who's in those? The CEO and the president are in those meetings. And every week, now I personally think it's a little micromanagement, but this is life when you have a Swiss parent company all over you and they want weekly intel. So basically the way we met, we have the key leadership groups of all these functions. I mean, everybody who leads one of these functions is in the room. And we have a sheet basically of every key initiative in the company that year. And the targets. The financial targets for the brand. And they were literally red light, green light, yellow lighting, every single thing. And as you get used, we get pretty good at this, right? Where you start going, okay, we're not going to talk about green. And as a big steering committee or management group, you go, what's yellow? And the group is taught, they've learned to go like, has anything changed? So like you have a status on there going, nothing's changed, it's still yellow, we think it's going to be good in 3 weeks, great, okay. Nothing's changed. Red, everybody's all over red going, what is going on? I mean, the whole company is literally saying, what do we need to do right now to fix that? Because this is important enough that it's on the sheet. It's going to affect our year as a company. And these happen all the time. Oh, we've got literally we have a blizzard. Blizzard is a big one. We've got a salmon fish shortage. Whatever. We had a fire in a factory. You could have anything, a competitive thing going on. And so you've got the whole eyes of the company going, okay, so what are we doing? And sometimes there is no answer, and it's in that room that there's going to be a solution figured out. Or there's going to be some direction given to figure out the solution. But like as a marketer, so the next calls are coming out of this meeting, they're going down to the brand teams. Your stuff that's on this sheet, you better be working on. I don't say that in a threatening way, because you know this, right? If you already knew it before it got up to the top floor. Like you're on your brand team going, hey, this isn't working. Or this launch is not looking like it's going to happen on time, or whatever is going on, whatever's big on your plate, you're going to be aware of this as a brand team, and you're already doing something about it. You just may get some feedback from this bigger group that says, that plan doesn't sound like it's really going to happen. Like we need to do something different, or what do you guys need? This is the best one, is when your leadership in your company says, what can we do to help? Like, by the way, I think I may have mentioned some of that when we talked before. That to me is one of the best leadership things you can do. Is not be on the top floor going, sending stuff down to people going, what the hell's going on? It is literally when your leaders are saying, what can I possibly do to help you guys? Like, what do we need to do? Is there anything you need? But that's an aside. But this works pretty well. Now, having said all that stuff, brand management, just an FYI, if anybody's thinking about going into brand management, I don't know if that's a cool career anymore. Is anybody interested in that in this room? Dang.
Well, we have some undergrads that are very interested.
It's fun. I love it because you're basically an entrepreneur with the guardrails of a big company. I mean, I found that interesting and comforting in a way that I could run a business, but I had a lot of things there to help and less risk. Some people find that frustrating. But brand management is way more than marketing. I thought this, to be honest with you, when I went into marketing, I thought, cool, it's probably a lot of packaging and commercials and new products. I think that'll be fun. And it's a lot of rigorous business management. And you own the entire P&L. So when I talk about all that target setting and all that stuff, I mean, if you want to run a brand, I mean, you're on the hook for it. The sales and the profit. And you can go, well, sales screwed up over there. They didn't get, nobody cares. Like when you say, well, they didn't get the display. No, you never go into a meeting with your manager saying somebody did this, somebody didn't do that. Like it just doesn't fly. You got to figure it out. But you're also responsible for all this other stuff, forecasting. I mean, doing that all the time. Anything manufacturing related. Like you better know your factories that make your product. We need to know what's going on. Go visit your factory. Do you even know how your stuff's made? Go there and talk to them about how important they are to you. And just, stay top of mind. Procurement, like literally when you can't get salmon, I brought salmon up several times there because that was a big deal for us. We had to invent a new supply chain to Norway to figure out salmon because Alaska just didn't work out. And it was really cool to watch it happen, but not when we were living it and it was one of our main products and we had no salmon. You got to figure it out with partners. Like you have partners and all this stuff, but the brand owns it. So HR, product supply, logistics, that's their business. But you own it as a big person. So you can't go into a meeting with the president and say, like these guys couldn't find the salmon. All these other things, and there's more. When you need money, you think, let's say you're out, you're going to do this lightweight litter. I mean, you're 5 years out on this thing, and you're putting in capital requests to Switzerland. Like as the brand person, you got to sell that up the chain. This whole vision of what this product is and what it's based on. Like, what's the insight? Like, what's the testing telling us? Where's the volume going to come from? And then hope that they give you the money to build a new line. So, brand management is fun, in my opinion, because you get to do all these things. I personally got bored if I had to do the same thing all the time, so I like this. I like that every day you might come in and there's just something new. It's not an emergency. It's not putting out fires. It's just there's new stuff. I like that. How are we doing on time?
We have like 16 more minutes.
How many?
16.
Oh, okay. I said 60. I'm like, okay, I'll stretch these out. You guys have heard some of these. So you had asked me about this, if I could include some of this stuff. So I did not like this slide at all because it felt like it was about me and it just felt weird. But these are some things that I felt pretty good about. Turning the Purina company brand from a logo to an actual brand with a team. And we managed it like a brand. We had never done that. That was really cool. Really great experience. Taking a brand like Fancy Feast, if you guys, you're too young. It used to be literally, there was an old advertisement of a Rolls Royce and a woman pulling up next to another's you remember this? Like the Grey Poupon commercial? It was like that. It was it was a tall crystal goblet in a mansion. Like it was so outdated. And so we literally rebirthed that brand when I was running it. It was great. It's a great experience and it's really scary because it's probably Nestle's favorite brand. Nestle brought that when they bought Purina, that was a Nestle brand. And they were like, we don't know if we want you guys to touch this thing because you're Purina, you do dog food, you don't get cat food. Like we didn't know anything about it. So this was the crown jewel. I launched a lot of stuff and those are fun. And it's fun when you can take a brand to records, but honestly, nobody cares. I mean, the reality is, like, if you guys are, this one, you guys should call me out on. Because the truth is, everybody better be setting a sales and profit record. Because nobody gets to go backwards. So that's a plan. Literally, we broke it the next year, and the next year, and the next year. Still felt good, though. My favorite thing was probably this agency I ran. It was kind of seen as an internal, they're sleepy, they're good, but they're one of us. They're not like fancy external agency from New York. And we turned that whole thing around. Like it became really cool. And that was probably the most fun I've had in my career. Oh yeah, this literally is probably the thing I'm most proud of. I stay in touch with these guys of the top 5 marketing people at Purina. And I say marketing. They're moving in the CMO, head of litter, head of the agency now, head of Walmart. We're all on my Fancy Feast team. And the truth, so I feel really good about that. I'm like, look what I did. I have personally seeded half the ELT in the company. The reality is, like, these were good people. Okay, I was very fortunate to have them on my team. But I didn't screw them up, I will say that. Challenges, okay, this is more fun. Yeah, look, this was a big deal. You have brand assignments, and whether it's for brand management or whatever job, any career you're in, I think, you're gonna have, not everything's exciting and sexy, and fun. Like a lot of things, but there's always something to be taken from those experiences. Obviously you're learning stuff. But my daughter's doing this right now where she's whining to me about the project she's on. And I'm like, God, you're looking this far out. Like, you got to nail those projects. That's just part of it. And maybe it's not fun right now, but then, you'll have fun. You've had fun ones. So I think just keeping your view out a little bit is important. There's people who, and my daughter's doing it, who are thinking about, they're actually doing that. They're like, I'm thinking about that job. I'm like, okay, that's good, but you've got to be crushing this one. Like, you can't be overlooking this job. That's a big mistake. So you can have your vision out here, but have your attention here. Like, it has to be. And you have to prove to people that, like, you can really nail things. Because think about it. If you're running something, you're looking at your people like that, right? Your newer, younger junior people. You are looking at them going, I want to see what they're capable of. It's so common sense, but sometimes people, they forget that. This one, I honestly, this is perplexing to me when people ask me, like, how do you work with people you don't like or trust or respect or whatever? The biggest thing was when my daughters would ask me when they were in school, and they go, hey, we have people on team. Literally, there's somebody on our team that won't do a single thing on a group project. What would you do about that, Dad? I go, I don't know. You guys, I'd love to know what you think about that. So they go, well, what do you do at work? I go, listen, you don't make it. If you're one of those people at work, you won't be around. I won't have to deal with you. If you don't literally carry your weight on a work project, you guys have people on your teams that have done this, right? Who
I let
literally,
them fire them.
pardon?
I let them fire them. And
Really?
then they can have to do the project on their own.
Because it happens all the time in education. I had it happen to me getting an MBA. Like, there were people who and they were fine. No one ratted them out because it was almost like, wait, are we gonna look bad if we rat them out or if we say, it's a real conundrum. And I said, yeah, it doesn't work like that at work. Like, you can't survive like that. You may get by here and there a little bit, but you won't make it. So it's different than school. It's a little more ruthless in that regard. Now there's people who kind of figure out ways to skate a little bit, but they're not going to advance that far. Yes.
So speaking on that, can you talk about like how maybe company culture affects that? Like personally, I know people, for instance, Southern Company, very political. So oftentimes you'll have like friends of, how that goes. On a peer level, who think that they don't have to follow the rules. And so they get by a little bit easier as far as like doing some of the projects.
Mm-hmm.
On a peer level, how do you manage that?
On a peer level. So you're like partnered up with somebody who's not really giving it their all like you would?
So
They know they got a little
Is it
cushion?
nepotism or something like that?
I personally think, I always try to think about it like,
a better way to put it, has someone ever gotten confused even though they're the one that said it?
as what?
So has someone ever, like you've been on a project, you leave the project meeting, they're the one that came up with the solution to implement, and you come back with their solution and they say, what is that?
Oh.
Have you ever had that happen?
Well, I mean, maybe not exactly that, but I've met all kinds. I've worked with all kinds. And I say this with some humility. I'm sure people maybe have said things about me. And like, not like bad, but like they might say like, hey, was he listening to us? Or I have those moments. First of all, I think I always like to try to take care of my own stuff. That is an interesting one though, because you always have people on teams, even if they're not your direct report, they could be a peer. They may be very far away from you actually, but they're not really great on your team. I never really took action to say like, hey, we got to yank somebody because they were, no, that's not true. I've had several people. I didn't even think about those. There's several people that I said, because we got to do something about that. It was later where I was in a position of having to make a decision on people and put them on an improvement plan. It's the hardest thing in our company to do. And we just always want to find something else, some other way to deal with it. But no, you know what happens, and you've heard this, it's a cliche, but this is what people hate the most, is a team leader who won't take care of the things that everybody knows need to be taken care of. It's the worst leadership trait probably you can have, or it's one of them. And so I learned later on, you just have to do it. You got to deal with it. That's different. That to me was as being a boss or a leader. As a peer, I don't know. There's subtle ways to. You got to make yourself shine, but then there's other ways that to make it apparent without being a whiner that somebody's not delivering. The truth is, everybody knows it.
So how do you do that in a team setting? Keep it in football terms.
You just drop a few little hints. I mean, the truth is you don't need to. I believe most bosses, if they're paying attention at all, they know. But if they just hear you mention it, they go, oh shit. Now it's being mentioned. I got to do something. That's the word, because you can rationalize your way to go, it's okay, everything's fine. I know they're a little whatever, but everybody's fine with it. You go. But the minute you can start to get a little feedback from somebody that you know that it's not okay, that people are not okay with it, then you do something about it. I mentioned this about data. Yeah, there's people, I met a lot of these people who just are all about data. And I was just the opposite. I'm like, data, maybe. I like doing things that I just thought were right, but I know it need to be in the middle. But yeah, you gotta develop that credibility. I mentioned this to you guys before, developing and managing people, like, listen, you have to prove in most companies that you're a great individual contributor, like a great performer. And you do. If you're good, you do it. And the reward is one day they go, great, you're now a people leader. And you go, wait, I don't know how to do that. Because you've been so focused on yourself, but you have observed others being bosses or your boss, and we all do. We go like, man, I can't believe he does it this way or that way, or right? You have all these things. You go, well, now you get to do it. So I always tell my daughter, pay attention to all that stuff. You don't like a boss, don't worry about it. You're gonna move. They're gonna move. But make a note of like somehow like what would you do when you're in that position? Because hopefully you'll be in that position. Yeah, we talked about that. Learning lessons. Okay, sorry, we're getting closer. Yeah, I mentioned this earlier, and it's kind of like, who's it, General MacArthur, one of those guys that says like, a plan is great until you get punched in the face, or was it Mike Tyson? I don't know. But it's true. Like, we can have great plans, and everything seems so great. Every plan blows up somewhere, if not multiple places and multiple times. And they don't necessarily blow up to smithereens, but stuff happens. It's absolutely gonna happen. And you just get used to it and go, okay, all right, now what do we do? Like, I've never had much respect for people who freak out about things that go wrong. Like, you just learn how to deal with it. And it's actually a great opportunity to show what you're made of when things are going a little haywire. Personally, consumer at the heart of everything. I couldn't have mentioned that more probably in this, is that because you can stray, and literally even others can get you going that way. Agencies that you trust can come in and present you with things that you go like, that's great, and it is great. But you go, wait a minute, that will pull us away from our true north. We're not doing it. Let's see. These are some of the things, a lot of these are the things that we talked about last time about prioritization, because as you saw, being a brand manager or somebody on that team, you're gonna have a million things on your plate. And you have to be able to prioritize all the time. And hopefully you have a boss who can do it for your team as well, because otherwise they'll chase everything. I told you last time we were together, behave like you own it. Great lesson. It's probably the greatest. I mentioned it a couple times today. Use your own stuff, like treat it like it's your own. When we were talking about the plans earlier, like ask yourself, like, we're about to just green light $5 million spend, and you go, yeah, of course. And it's like, wait, it's $5 million. Would you do it if it was your $5 million? I asked you guys this last time. It's a great question. And if you say, well, no, not if it was mine, I would do it. You're like, well, then we probably shouldn't do it. I would say this one also is really important about your own traits and style, because it's easy to see people who are successful and go like, I'm gonna just kind of mold myself into whatever this collection of success you're seeing. And I'd say like, you gotta bring your own unique stuff to it. Like, and there is space for everybody to do that. I believe that. Take your rough edges off, of course, but then let your unique stuff, like, do it your way. People will try to beat you back into the middle. It's just the natural process of big companies. They tend to want to push us all into this middle zone to be the same. I don't know why. It's just the way it is. I always resisted that, but you have to offer them something better. That's all. Let's see here. Yeah, we talked about all these, but I say this to anybody, even if they don't ask. You got to manage your own career. Like, nobody does this for you. And if you think they are, you're wrong. They just don't. And tied to that is the fact that the people who do, and it doesn't take a lot, but like, you put some thought into it and tell your boss and tell other people, like you, which means you do need to network a little bit. Just have relationships, that's all it means. Tell them the same thing, because when people get in a room together and they find commonality and they go, you know, I was talking to so-and-so and I think they'd be great in this next position, which you basically put in their head. And someone else goes, I think so too, which you put in there. And they go, man, we're smart. Let's put him in that position. You go, you just managed your career. It's not always that simple, but literally I found that the people who do that get way more of what they want than the people who don't. You have to be good, you have to be deserving. But literally, if you're not telling people what you want to do and why you would be great at it, and why all the things you've done make you the perfect person for it, they may not come to that conclusion. And and then you come away mad going, I can't believe I'm not in that position. Like, you can really, really help your chances. I know we're pretty much out of time, so any last minute questions? I've enjoyed it with you guys. I really have. Sorry, I know I talked a lot and threw a lot of random stuff at you, but I appreciate your time and attention. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, I might get some questions from the online group. Would that be okay if
Yeah,
I
sure.
reached out to you with those?
Absolutely,
Okay.
yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks
Y'all
for
have a
having
great
me.
rest of your day. I'm gonna post an announcement about the exam next week, so stay tuned for that.
Sign the sheet.
Oh, I didn't know where.
Oh, I need to sign it too.
And if you didn't sign in, please come sign in.